In the news, in the media, and even with many of our close relationships, we seem to hear so much about love gone wrong. No longer do we hear about the pleasure of loving touch, the joy of intimate sensuality and sexual connection, the many ways we can heal naturally from serious illnesses, and the ultimate power of our inner spirit. Instead, we are bombarded with messages about trauma and abuse, infidelity and deadly diseases, and relationships ending badly. Today, I'm offering a new and enlightened perspective on the power of love, touch, and our spiritual connection to heal so much of our ordinary daily issues, problems, and concerns. Today, Norma Hollis, a featured speaker on this Women in Love Summit, has graciously agreed to interview me today. So I am turning the mic over to Norma. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Erica. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you.
Great. And I thank you for the great honor of interviewing you. What a great honor. And I'm just looking forward to learning from you as well as getting the chance to share with other people all about you.
Thank you.
What impresses me so much about you is your focus on love and how love is so important. And we're going to talk about that today. But before, let me give a little background about you so that in case people don't know much about you, that they'll have a chance to. Dr. Erica Goodstone, creator and host of this Women and Love Summit, as well as previous. She's done a number of summits. You have Men in Love series, Sexual Reawakening Summit, Love Me, Touch Me, Heal Me Summit, and the Healing Recovery Retreat. That's quite a bit. And you're a licensed mental health counselor, a marriage therapist, and body psychotherapist. And your motto is, where there is love, there is a way. So before we talk about love, tell us my curiosity, what's a body psychotherapist? I've never heard that term before.
Oh, okay. What happened is in 2004, I forgot what year it was, a group, two guys brought together leading body therapists, people who do some kind of touch therapy, and people who do counseling but also include the body in some way. And they created an organization called the U.S. Association for Body Psychotherapy, and I was on that steering committee. There are trainings that were done decades ago, and I thought the whole world was going to know about this, because through touch, such deep issues emerge that may not show up just through talking.
Right, right. That's so powerful. You hear a lot about body language in my profession and others. So body psychotherapy is new. And the touch issue is new too. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about your background, what your training, and what led you to become a therapist?
Yeah, well, I started out actually teaching in elementary school, and I really wanted to teach in college. But in between, I ended up teaching in a high school for 5 years. And there, what happened is I taught elementary school. I really wasn't happy working with little children. I wasn't experienced. It wasn't me. And I was playing tennis every afternoon. So I thought that if I was teaching what I love to do, sports, that I would be happy. And I was happy. But in the high school, there were many military type women teachers. Some had been in the military, and they gave out zeros, and the kids were frightened, and it wasn't as enjoyable as I would have liked it. And that's when I wanted to teach in college. So someone told me about a program, Human Sexuality, Marriage, and Family Living at New York University. So that got me started in counseling and learning about people and relationships. And I had been a really shy child, and I thought I was ugly, but it really was, looking back on it, that I was so shy and I didn't have a lot of confidence. So I thought it was about my looks, and it really, you look at people and they don't look so beautiful, but they're confident and lots of people like them and have lots of relationships. So in the doctoral program, I discovered that there was this theory of mother-infant bonding. Dr. Margaret Mahler studied mothers and infants, and in the first 3 years of life. And what she discovered is without good enough bonding between the mother and infant, the child could develop separation anxiety, anxiety about merger, so that would be anxiety about marriage or any really getting too close, and intense ambivalence. And I had all of that. So that set me on a quest to learn more about love and relationships and healing. And the other piece was that I was teaching health and physical education and getting all kinds of aches and pains and injuries. And that's what got me started studying the different body therapies, first receiving them and then studying about it. And then I put it together in my own system.
Nice, nice. Boy, it just always amazes me how much our childhood affects who we are and who we become in life. It's just, you hear it all the time, and I know you hear it and see it in everything that you do all the time. So,
Mm.
what are some of the secrets to creating an extraordinary relationship? I understand you have 9 secrets or something. Tell us about those.
Right. These are really the basics. I mean, I wrote a book, Love Me, Touch Me, Heal Me, The Path to Physical, Emotional, Sexual, and Spiritual Reawakening. The book was huge, and that got divided into ebooks and then smaller into Kindle books, so it's really accessible. And from that, I really gathered that there really are these 9 areas. The first one is yourself. This is something that when I wrote the book, which was in the 1990s, originally, and it was in a closet for 13 years until I finally got it published. But nobody was talking about self-love and the self. And now I hear a lot of people talking about that. So that's being covered by a lot of people. But the second piece, that's the first one, is self-love, very important. But the other piece is understanding others and loving others, understanding the person that you really say you love in a deep way. And so that's a very important piece. But then one of the questions I get from someone who might be in their 50s or 60s, they come for counseling, and I'm taking a history about their childhood. And they say, like, what does that have to do with me now? And it has everything to do with it. Like,
Everything.
sometimes you've done well, a man may have done well in business for years, and if the relationship wasn't working well, they had high sex drive and they cheat and they find a new woman, but they get older and it's not so easy, the drive isn't as high, they don't have as much money. Those issues from childhood start to appear. They were suppressed for a long time, so it always matters. And if you deal with it sooner, you're a lot better off for the rest of your life. So that's your past, dealing with your past. The other piece that a lot of people don't think about is dealing with your future. Like, they're just living for now. You meet someone that you're sexually attracted to and you feel okay, but they really don't have the same values that you have, or you don't have the same goals in life, and you just stay there because you're not thinking of your future. So those are the 4 basics, and I have a Healing Through Love seminar series that deals with those 4 pieces. But then there are all these other areas that my books talk about. The 5th one is love. What is love? I mean, how do we love? We don't get an education in this. We may get some education on ideas about how to love, but not the fullness of it, where we really feel it and accept it and feel loved and can forgive and all that goes into love. And another thing that years ago, when I was studying about the body, it was pretty common and a lot of people were learning about it and open to it. And then the society got to be so aversive toward touch. There's a lot of taboo around touch. We only hear about negative touch, harmful touch, but touch is so powerful. And I'm going to talk about some of the details in a moment about touch itself, but that's an important factor. Another one is healing. We think everybody heals the same way, but we don't. So we can't have the same prescription for emotional healing or for physical healing. There's some people, even relationship healing. Some people have to brood quietly for a while. Other people have to ask lots of questions and find out and communicate. We're all different even in the healing process. So then the 8th item has to do with opening up your senses and your sensuality, whether or not you have a partner, whether or not you're being sexual, just to open that up and to feel all the senses. We value them when we're missing part of it, but we usually just take it for granted. And then the final one, when you've dealt with all of this, you can't help connecting to your spiritual essence.
Is that one of the highest, and is that one of the goals to connect with your spiritual essence? When you say you can't help but do that?
Well, I don't really look at it as a goal. I look at it as just something that's part of the process. It
Right.
happens to you. It happened to me when in the 1976, I was at a yoga ashram in Paradise Island. Shivananda Yoga was running it, and Ravi Shankar was playing the sitar, and I had been meditating for days and on a very, very limited diet there, vegetarian and light,
Mhm.
and somebody was sitting with me and just doing a little bit of shiatsu on my back, and I had an instant cosmic awareness. I felt what it was like to be a road or a tree or a car. It was, or an animal. I just suddenly felt what that was like. And the next thing that happened is I was praying to God and sending love to everybody I knew. So
Wow.
it was like powerful. And that's what happens when you really are seeking self awareness. So you don't have
Yes.
to seek the spirituality, you seek the self awareness, and the spirituality arrives or shows up or emerges.
I like the way you put that. That's very true. I hadn't thought about it that way, but that's very, very true as you're saying that. So tell us some more about the touch. I think that's just fascinating and bringing out our sensuality and the importance of touch. Tell us more about that.
And science has caught up with what we knew as body psychotherapists years ago. So, first of all, touch provides its own language. Every culture recognizes touch, and we all respond to touch in a similar way. Just look at a baby or our pets. Like, I stayed at my friend's house during the hurricane, and her cat was licking my fingers and licking my face, and they touch so naturally, and you rub their fur, and it's so soothing. And our body doesn't lie. So you could be talking and not quite telling the truth, and unless someone is really good at discerning that, they might not notice it. But when you touch someone, you know the truth. The body doesn't lie, and if you're paying attention, they'll tighten up. You feel it, and the person feels it. And then Dr. John Money, who worked with gender issues, a well-known researcher, handed me a book called Children of the Creche. This was about children in an orphanage in Lebanon in the 1940s. And what they discovered is that these children did not receive much touch or much sensual stimulation, and they became retarded, mentally retarded.
Wow.
But if they were adopted by about 2 years old, they could regain their intellect. But if they got adopted later than that, they remained somewhat retarded, even though they got a little bit more intellect back. So touch is powerful. And there's another piece. There's 21,000 genes in all of us, and 18 genes are required in order for us to activate the touch receptor for gentle touch. So that's why some people don't even have that touch receptor activated.
Now say that again, please, because that's important information. Say it one more time,
Yeah, we
please.
have 18 genes that have to be developed or activated in order for the touch receptor for gentle touch to be activated. We can have these genes, but if they're not activated, it doesn't operate in our life. So gentle touch does so much. I used to get these sessions with deep tissue, painful sessions. I used to think that was great for my body, but I would resist and I wouldn't have emotion. When someone did the gentle work, like Rubenfeld synergy, polarity, craniosacral work, I've studied all of that, I could start crying in a moment. It would just access whatever was going on without the resistance. So gentle touch is powerful. And Dr. Tiffany Fields did research. She created the Touch Research Institute, and she started the factual information statistics about touch. So I want to share a little of this because it's just something we never hear about.
Yeah, right.
So, so um, one session, it could be a 45-minute session, it can be 30 minutes, it could be 15 minutes twice a week, a limited number of sessions, and it's not even loving touch, it's just a practitioner working with you. It increases your immunity, it increases the lymphocytes that fight infection, it lowers the cytokines that have to do with inflammation, it lowers your cortisol level, which has to do with stress, it lowers vasopressin, which has to do with aggression. So all of that, and then a study was done about societies that inhibit touch and sexuality at a young age, and those societies tend to be more violent. And the societies that allow touch and have the loving touch and freer premarital sexuality and sexuality, those societies are less violent. So touch is really powerful. It also lowers your heart rate, lowers your blood pressure, and then it really affects anxiety and depression. Lowers it, alleviates it. And there's just one more little thing about touch, that with touch, first you have beta waves in your brain. The touch lowers the beta waves. That's your activity state of mind. Then the frontal alpha waves start to be lowered. That's your state of relaxed alert. Then you get into theta waves, and you get into your subconscious and that altered state like hypnosis. And finally, just through gentle touch, you get into the delta waves, and that's when you suspend your external awareness. It's a gateway to collective unconscious, and it gives you empathy, it provides for deep sleep. So even in a sexual, intimate relationship, if it's activating the touch in a gentle way, in an easy way, you get it. That's why it can be so intimate. And Tantra sex teaches people to stay with their partner, not to move a lot, and to be present. So that touch is powerful.
Wow, that's very inviting the way you put it, and your great knowledge of it is just really phenomenal. And I'm just so glad you're sharing this. I'm sure your listeners are very excited to learn all of this and your great knowledge about it. So, touch. Now, what about other parts of us? So, like I've heard about gut feeling. Of course, we all have gut feeling sometimes. Does that play anything in the relationship and the love and the touch issues?
Well, that's where science is really coming out with information that is amazing, and I love to share this because they always say to trust your gut. Well, they're calling it the second brain, the enteric nervous system. And the reason is that most of us don't realize we have 500 million neurons in the gut. And this is 1/200th of the number of neurons in the brain. So it's like a second brain, but there's so much more going on in your gut. 5 times as many as the 100 million spinal cord neurons. So there are 500 million neurons in your gut, and it's more than what's going on in your spinal cord. So when you have a problem in the spine and it's tensed up and you're getting those injections to alleviate the pain, there may be something going on in your gut, because from what I know with my training in massage therapy, and in shiatsu, I learned that what goes on in the gut affects your back. It's like the antagonist muscles and then all the neurons. So it's huge. There are 30 neurotransmitters that are active in the gut. And Dr. Candace Pert wrote a book many years ago, Molecules of Emotion, where she talked about the power of these neurotransmitters affecting our emotions. So there are neurotransmitters, and then there are these hormones, serotonin. 90 to 95% of the serotonin in our system is in our gut. So think about what that means in terms of eating the wrong foods and not digesting your foods and having a tension there from being upset. You're lowering the serotonin. And from taking drugs, you may lower the serotonin. And the other one is 50% of the dopamine. And that gives us the excitement and novelty, and that's what makes us want to love someone and be with them. So the gut is powerful.
Right. Well, I find it interesting that you talk about the gut intelligence. because I've heard about I've never heard that before. You know, I've been around for a bit, not dearly as like you have in your field, but I've heard about the intelligence of the heart and of course the brain, and heart versus brain, but I haven't heard gut. So where does the heart play in all of this?
Well, the heart, there's an institute called the Heart Math Institute that has studied the formulas, the shapes of energy coming from and around the heart. And they found that the heart magnetism is 5,000 times stronger than that of the brain. So this explains to me why when someone tells a story and activates your emotions, it touches your heart. And that makes you feel more love for someone. And it also can cause you to love someone who's needy. Because if someone's very needy, you reach out, it touches your heart. But it may not be so good for you in the relationship.
Right. You have to know that though and be willing to step away. So I love the conversation about love and the depth you have. And we know about love, the intimacy, relationship. But how does love help us heal from things like abuse or traumas or different things we go through as we go through life? How is it a healing factor to love? And talk about that for a bit, please.
Right. Well, love, I believe, is the healing factor. Think about a part of your body that's hurting. I hate when people say I have a bad knee or a bad back. If you said that to a child, you're a bad child. How's that child going to react? It's not going to get better. But if you're nurturing it like the way you do with a baby or a child, mommy kisses the wound. If you do that for your own body, you can heal a lot. Our bodies can naturally heal. And in relationships, when we feel loved, understood and loved, we can heal. We can heal from almost anything. If we've had childhood abuse, what I've found with people who've been abused, I do the body therapy. I've had the partner in the room too, helping with it. They may not want to be touched, but if you approach them very gently and ask for their permission, maybe they'll let you hold their head or hold their hand. Or if you get their permission and you approach it slowly with total love and acceptance, they can gradually open up and those touch receptors can get a little bit freer, and the amygdala where they stored the trauma, it can loosen up a little bit, and slowly they can accept more love. So what's really required for love is a balance between the heart, the brain, and the gut.
Wow.
And as that happens, our spiritual awareness gets activated. And I have some examples of the spiritual awareness helping. One is the person who started Alcoholics Anonymous. He was a down and out alcoholic and had a spiritual awakening. And that's what made him create that whole organization that has helped millions over the years. And there's a concentration camp victim that I had heard speak on a video who actually consciously forgave the person who had abused her so badly, or the people. Consciously forgiving, but really believing that and forgiving is healing.
Yeah.
And then Vietnam veterans, there's a counseling organization, American Counseling Association, where they have a regular trip where they take Vietnam veterans back to Vietnam to meet with former prison guards and other people from Vietnam that were on the other side. And they connect and they make a friendship. And they have discovered that the enemy was war, it wasn't the other person. I mean, it's like powerful healing. And there's just so many. I just feel like sharing these because I've gathered them. One was an interview on TV between a Ku Klux Klan man and a black man who was a preacher. And by the end of that interview, the guy from the Ku Klux Klan left the Klan and ended up being a mentee of this black preacher. That's how powerful his spirituality and approach to life and how he spoke affected that person. Of course, that person was ready.
Right.
I mean, he even met with the person on the radio, on the TV show, but still, he got influenced. And then the final one that I want to talk about is a story I heard from Wayne Dyer. He was talking to a woman who was living in Rwanda, and she the that incident between the Hutus and the Tutsis, and she was a Tutsi, and they were hiding in a bathroom in someone's house, one sitting on top of the other on a toilet seat. I don't know how many there were. It was horrible. But they were meditating and spiritual for days. And then when it was over, she went outside, and the first person she met was a Hutu with a machete pointed at her. And she was in such a spiritual state, just looked at him totally in that spiritual state, and he dropped the gun and let her leave. So,
Wow. That's
so
power.
there are all these stories about love and that spiritual connection as healing.
That's wonderful. So, what does that? How does that relate to your work? What's the work that you do with people, and what do you? I know you have an offer for your something to share with your viewers, but tell us a little more about what the benefits would be for working with you.
Well, I have studied love from so many perspectives, Buddhism and the Bible. I read the Bible from beginning to end. And this is interesting. You know you're on the right path when this happens. I started reading it right before September 11th, before that incident. And my neighbor at the time was giving a presentation on Genesis. So I got to see that. Then September 11th happened, and I was supposed to go to the dentist. So I called up to check whether I should come. And I had this wonderful conversation with his assistant or secretary. She was giving a presentation on Revelations. So within 2 weeks, just when I started reading the Bible, I had a presentation on the beginning and the end of the Bible. So
Wow.
it's not accidental. I know so much about spiritual awareness, and I learned a lot from going to Sivananda Yoga and other ashrams. Guru
Right.
Mai, Muktananda's disciple. I've just studied love and relationships and healing, and I came from health and physical education, so I understood the body and healing. So what I'm offering, I've put so much of this together, and I have decided for this summit, I usually charge a lot for a session, but I want to give a free 30 to 45-minute love assessment session, a
Wow.
session where I go into a deep dive with you. I'm going to send a questionnaire, so you answer some questions. You have to really be ready and willing. That's so important that you're ready. But you answer some questions, and then on the phone call, I'm going to really delve into you, like your past relationships, your current relationships, what you really want, what you need, what your emotions and thoughts are like, and what are your next steps? What do you need to do? And maybe how we can work together. What I want to do is give you a 360-degree overhead view of where you need to go and what you need to do for your next steps. And you can work with me or not, but I want to go into a little bit more. One of the things that I found is that when I offer my courses, I've offered many different courses, people will say something like, I feel like I'm giving too much love. I don't want to take a course on love. But if you feel like you're giving too much love, that's a sign that you don't really know how to love. You don't understand love, and you don't understand self-love. I had that problem. I was so loving. I took that course all about men, all about women, and it helped me to get married. I mean, I got married shortly after that. So did my girlfriend, because it really taught us. There was a woman in the course who stood up, and the guy running it said she was saying things like controlling things, difficult things about the way she treats men. And this guy said, "Would you want to be with her?" And somehow hearing that, it just hit me over the head. There
Wow.
was a way to be loving. So I was being so loving, but I forgot about that's not enough. You have to take a stand for yourself. You got to be clear about what you want and need and not tolerate lack of love and all of that. So I learned that by taking a course, by taking that action, I don't have to do it all myself. I can get help. So I learned that a long time ago. And there's a lot of people who don't think they need help, but you don't have to look at it as help. Just look at it as greater awareness on what you can do to create a happier life for the rest of your life.
Right.
So another issue that people have come up to me with is they don't currently have a relationship. So what I realize is, when is the best time to study about love and learn about it? It's not once you get into the relationship and you have all those dynamics going on. It's really best to do it before you have the relationship, when you're in between, when you can really concentrate and learn about it and be prepared for your next relationship. And then if you're in a relationship, it's wonderful to study about it and learn how you can make it better. Or if you're ready to leave and you don't know, should I stay or leave, then learn about love. Discover, maybe you're trying to leave something that's really good for you, but you're listening to other people and you're thinking he doesn't live up to some standard that maybe isn't fair or maybe isn't what you really care about. So anyway, I go into all about love and all about what you need. It's all personal. And that's the quality that I've realized I need. I need that personal attention to my needs. It's not enough for me anymore to take a group training, and learn what other people need. I need the individual, and you may too. So I'm offering this. There's really only 10 slots because I can't work with 100 people. I'm really giving a lot of time. And the there are 3 requirements that I have. First of all, you have to be ready and make a commitment, and this is the commitment, that you're going to show up. We'll make an appointment, I'm going to send some papers, we'll make the appointment, but you have to show up. The way you have integrity with this is the way you have integrity in your relationships. And if you have resistance, if you're feeling a lot of resistance, then just realize that that resistance is also showing up in the way you love. So just push through that resistance. Successful people push through resistance to get results. And then the third thing is to come ready to change. Because if you're going to approach me with your arms crossed, all right, prove it to me, it's not going to work. So those are my requirements. And then we'll go into a deep dive into you. And then at the end, we'll see if there's a way that we can work together. I love working with this and I love helping people. So please don't hesitate, because I only have a limited number of slots. Don't have a deep regret, as Norma talks about, no regrets. Don't have a deep regret later in life. Learn how to love. Love is a verb. True love is action with heart.
Right.
So what you do to sign up for this is go to my website, drericagoodstone.com, and look for how to contact me and give your name and email and just say I'm in, and we'll schedule the session and I'll send the paperwork. But before I finish, I really want to read this poem, because I don't know where I got it from. Right now it's anonymous, but it says it all, the way I believe love can and should be. Let your love become like gentle raindrops on all of your relationships. Be the gentle force of love that transforms fear into safety, anger into feeling the deep emotions of sadness, shame, loyalty, and depression. Be the gentle force that turns fear into self-acceptance and self-appreciation. Be the one who understands love and teach that love by example, not by control, lecture, expectation, or demand.
Nice, nice. Very gently said. Thank you very much. Just one quick question. On your calls you're doing, are you taking couples or just individuals?
That's a great question. I hadn't thought about that, but I'd be happy to take couples, because I work with lots of couples.
Right, right, right.
And then maybe each one will have their own. When I see couples together, they work together, but I always take a history separately at another point if they want to work with me later.
Right.
But
right.
thank you.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Norma, thank you so much for interviewing me for this.
You are more than welcome, my dear. Anytime, I'm more than happy to support you. I love the work that you're doing, and I love who you are and all your great knowledge. All the stuff you shared with us in a short period of time is just fascinating. And love and touch clearly are very, very important. And I learned some things myself that's going to help me in my life. So I thank you for allowing me to do this. Yes. Any
Wonderful.
last final words you'd like to share with your people, your listeners?
I guess I would share my motto: where there is love, there is a way. And you have to believe that. You have to have that faith and trust, because very often it doesn't look like it's possible. It really looks like people have their resistance up. Love brings up anything unlike itself for the purpose of healing and release. I heard that somewhere a long time ago. So just remember that your love is much more powerful than you ever realized. And your lack of love or your conditional love is very powerful in blocking the love in
Mhm.
yourself and in someone else.
Mhm.
So just remember, where there is love, there is a way. And ask yourself in the moment, any moment, what would love do now? I got that from Neil Donald Walsh.
I like
What
that.
what would love do now? And he adds, for yourself.
Nice.
So being loving for yourself might mean that you forgive something in the moment because your partner is going to be more caring towards you later on because you didn't make a big deal about it in the moment. So
Yeah.
what would love do now for you and for the other person?
I love that. I love how you make noun both a verb, love both a verb and a noun. So that's really cool. Well, Dr. Erica, again, thank you for allowing me to interview you and your great information. I'm sure all your viewers have gotten a lot of information, and I'm hoping that many of them will speak with you because I know it's going to be very, very, very valuable. So great, great job and great work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.